Erica Cole here, and this is my soul chat for today, for this week. And we're heading into the Christmas season. It seems like there is an awful lot happening with energy these days. And if you're anything like me, you may have been experiencing a lot of exhaustion, um, just a lot of like just these feelings of things not really falling into place for you. And what I find that is helpful for me, and I'm going to just talk about that for a second before I go into my talk about empaths again. But what I find helpful to me is that I do have a list that I frequently go to. I am sure that I write all my appointments down. I'm sure of that. And I look at them before I go to bed so that I know what's expected of me the next day, what I have to look forward to. But then I also make a list of anything. I do a bit of a brain dump where I'm just putting things down in any kind of a list that I know that I need to address the next day. Now, people would often just do this in their agenda or whatever, but I find that even though that used to work really well for me, for some reason now, I don't know why, it doesn't. Maybe it's because I'm in my home all the time. I have no idea. But I just started writing it down on a specific paper that I keep in a certain place. And I just take some time and I just write everything down. If there are any bills that I have to pay, if there's anything that has to be purchased, if there is a doctor appointment, even though I have it on the calendar, I'll just write it down there. Anything in particular that is going on for that day, it's just all written down on this piece of paper. And the reason that I do that is because it takes it out of my head, because I find that I can perseverate on some of these extraneous things that are going on. And it really helps for me. I'm a very visual person. So if I see it and if I put it down on paper, for some reason that seems to calm things down for me. I know it's there so that when I get up in the morning, I can look at that again if I need to refresh my memory. And I have a really good memory. But for some reason, this really works for me. I have to do that to feel that, you know, I've addressed all of my issues that I need to handle the next day, and that I have it handy. It's right in one place, and it's one piece of paper, so I can pick it up and deal with it. So that's what I want to say. If anybody else is feeling these things, and if this does work for you, I would just say, go ahead and do it. So today I wanted to talk about what the difference is about between being an empath and being empathic, because empathy means our heart goes out to another person um, when they're going through a difficulty or even when they're experiencing joy. I mean, we feel that for them, right? So if you really care about somebody, you love somebody, you can feel that sort of thing for them. That's being very empathic. And so, but as an empath, we sense other people's emotions. We sense their energy, their physical symptoms, and we sense them in our bodies oftentimes. So, for instance, I'm going to try to give you an example of that. So, let's say, for instance, that somebody is terribly sad and you know that they have just endured a loss in their life that is very significant. And oftentimes, we can feel it in our heart. We might feel a heaviness in our heart. And depending on the relationship we have with that person, the heaviness can even go into a bit of panic depending on what that other person is feeling, okay? So that's one physical sign. But we feel not only that, we feel joy, as I just said, and we're hypersensitive to someone's voice and body movements as well. Now, I don't know if you have ever been in a room when you just know that somebody is angry, but you don't know what is going on. You just walk into the room and you feel this thickness in the air, or you feel like it feels like anger, but you can't really decipher it, but you know it's there. You know something has happened. Or if you've ever walked into a room and somebody was talking about you and they immediately stop, you can sense that something there happened too, because even if the conversation was ongoing, there is something that you're picking up in the air. Um, we hear what others don't say in words, but that it's communicated in silence. And empaths, we oftentimes feel first, and then we think. And generally speaking, the way oftentimes most people operate is they think about something first and then they feel it. A lot of times people don't even know what they're feeling. They may only know if it's a really bombastic feeling like rage or something like that. But a lot of times people are just not in touch with their feelings. And I think when somebody first comes and they want to understand what's going on with them, they need to understand what their feelings are. They need to understand um, what they're feeling, and they need to be able to decipher that, to put that into words. That's very empowering, by the way. So if somebody can't do that, or if they are just not really in touch with it, it just kind of lets you know that this person is a little bit hampered with something. And it may be a protective mechanism, but it is something that if you're an empath, you will pick up on. So empaths are different from people who have had their defenses operating from birth, like, you know, as what normally happens. Um, because empaths share some of their traits of highly sensitive people. And highly sensitive people, that was a term that was coined by a psychologist named Elaine Aron. And I like the term highly sensitive person because there are many highly sensitive people in this world, and they do not get recognized for being highly sensitive. Some of the traits of a highly sensitive person can be they have a low threshold for stimulation. So let's say that they're at a concert and the music gets extremely loud. Now, for some, that might be okay, but generally speaking, for highly sensitive people, that is not okay. They cannot have these loud sounds, or maybe a very loud television with like an action movie on where there's a lot of action going on.
Sasha
They
Blanket
may
or
not be
Sasha
able to
Blanket.
have that. And then there is also somebody is calling me right now. And there is also, I'm sorry about that. There is also, you know, a sensitivity to light and to sound and to smell. Now, I know for myself that I am extremely sensitive to light. Um, and that sensitivity grew a little bit more the older that I got. I love sunlight. That does not bother me. I mean, I love to be in light in general, but I like natural light. And if there are too many lights on in a room, it's like I want them lowered just a little bit so that it doesn't feel too overstimulating. That's like, am I a lot of work or what? You know what I mean? But that's what happens to me. So sound and smell, like I said, hypersensitive to smell. Um, People who are highly sensitive have an aversion to large groups, which is what I just mentioned when you go into like a concert or something like that. I could never do concerts, and as a matter of fact, I think I've only been to maybe two concerts in my life. And because I always did cabarets. Cabarets were something I could do. They were smaller events in smaller rooms, and I could do any performance in a cabaret. But put me in a situation where there are tons of people, hundreds of people, could even be thousands of people, and it's challenging for me. I mean, I went to the Big Apple Circus, which wasn't too bad because we sat in front. And that's the other thing I made sure that we did was we could sit in a place where we could easily exit, or we could have an easy exit when we left, so that it wouldn't be too difficult for me to get out because I didn't want to feel so boxed in. And the same was true was whenever I did see a performance, like Carnegie Hall was something I could go to because that was a smaller venue, but I had to be up front as well. So if somebody wanted to go to a concert with me, we always had to make sure that we had really good seats because that was what really helped me to enjoy it. And really, what's interesting about that is that at the same time, I want to be immersed in it. So go figure. So there are lots and lots and lots of things about highly sensitive people. Um, so going from a high stimulation situation to no stimulation, or a lower stimulation, takes a long time for a person to get to that place of being more calm and peaceful. So where somebody else might leave and just be energized and happy, and they're just feeling really good about it all, once they get to a certain place, they feel that they're just naturally transitioning into being at home and blah blah blah. With a person who's highly sensitive, it might take them a bit longer. They may need to go upstairs or in their home in a space that's by themselves to be a little bit calmer and quieter. So empaths share with highly sensitive people their love of nature and a quiet environment. Generally speaking, I'm always going to say general because, as I'm going to talk about in future soul chats, there are varying degrees of much of this because there are many different types of empaths. Some are introverted, some are extroverted, um, some sense energy in food. I mean, it's wild the different kinds of empaths there are, but all of these things make up a highly sensitive person who then, on top of that, has extra sensitivity. So, an empath takes a highly sensitive person's experiences, and as an empath, um, they then sense subtle energy, such as, Shakti or prana. And that's the energy that is surrounding and in the body. And empaths absorb this. And highly sensitive people don't generally have that sort of sensitivity. Empaths experience energy in very deep ways. So everything is it's comprised of subtle energy, such as emotions. Emotions are a compilation of energies. Physical sensations. Uh, we energetically internalize feelings of physical and emotions of other people. Um, as I mentioned before about going into a room and sensing when there has either been an angry outburst, or somebody is very angry but they're just not saying it, or they're having a very strong feeling about something. It doesn't just have to be anger, and you're sensing something is different. So there is this heightened sensitivity, and we often have trouble knowing someone else's discomfort from our own. And this is I would say it's one of the main situations that empaths have to deal with, because they may be experiencing discomfort, or they may be experiencing emotions or feelings or sensations, but it's not exactly theirs, and it belongs to somebody else. And one of the good things to do, if you don't really have a good handle on this in the beginning, is just to recognize what environment you're in, and if there's anything happening in that environment, or what type of person are you around. And then, if you can, remove yourself from that situation and see if there's a difference in how you're feeling, because it's very unnerving to have this experience and then think that you're supposed to do something about it, because a lot of times what happens with empaths is they also want to take care of the feelings that are going on or take care of the situation and the discomfort that maybe that they that they understand may be happening, is something that they want to calm down or they want to get to the bottom of it, help solve it. So an empath takes a lot of responsibility on their shoulders. And I've talked an awful lot about this in one of the programs that I run because in my programs, generally what I have are all empaths. And many empaths, have a lot of other things that can get mixed into this whole pie of being an empath. And one of them is codependency. And codependency is a whole different thing. But in essence, if you're codependent, you're really wanting to constantly feel that it's your responsibility to take care of others, to take care of a situation. So empaths may feel many things, but they don't have to reach out and take care of somebody. It's not necessarily true that if you're an empath that you're also a codependent, but a lot of times that is the case because many empaths, from the time they were very little, oftentimes were seen as perhaps not having it all together. They may have felt like they didn't fit in, or that they just really didn't have a handle on the situations, and they just were not able to really express their needs more clearly because they would get very jumbled up with all these emotions and thoughts that were going on. So, yeah, that's pretty intense when you think about it, right? Um, Oftentimes too, an empath will have strong intuition and they can communicate with animals. That's another type of empath actually. And but however, they can be in touch with their inner guides, and this can be a very helpful component if you consider yourself an empath, because we do have internal guidance systems which are a little bit separate from saying uh, an internal guidance system in the sense that there are other ways that you can get help internally for things that may be going on with you. So I'm thinking that all of this talk about empaths and what occurs with an empath is really important, but there is so much information that even I have a hard time putting it all together because I experience a lot of empathy for people who are struggling with being an empath or people who are struggling with being a highly sensitive person, because there is no reason that anybody should have to struggle to figure out, you know, who and what they are in the scheme of things. And that's one of the things that one has to do if you're highly sensitive. You have to figure out, what you're feeling, what's another person's feeling, where you end and another person begins. And it's hard because that we're talking about boundaries, we're talking about implementing behaviors, as well as a mindset, first and foremost, that allows you to really think in this way and allows you to be an inner detective, so to speak. You can be a detective for yourself. So as we go along, I will bring up more information about empaths and situations that are going on with empaths. I think I'm not sure that I'm going to do that next week, but at maybe the one after that, I may talk about the different kinds of empaths and how they are, what affects them. Okay. All right. So I'm glad that you were here, and I hope to see you next week for my next soul chat. Thank you so much. Bye bye now.